This is St. Pete X, affectionately known as SPX. SPX brings you St. Pete's brightest business people, civic leaders, and citizens who share their insight and expertise as well as their love of our great city. SPX is presented by the St. Petersburg Group. Head to stpete.co to check out more episodes, and by St. Pete's most effective marketing agency, Big C. Browse to bigc.co to see their work. Now enjoy the conversation. I'm here with Tanner Loebel. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You just sold a company.
I did.
How did that feel?
It feels good. My doctor also tells me it feels good. My cortisol and stress levels are way down. My dog likes it, spending a lot more time with him, my wife as well. So it's been enjoyable. Feels good. Just ready to get into something else.
So you're saying that maybe the key to good health is selling a company and making a bunch of money?
Well, I don't know if it's scientifically proven, but I'm totally into the biohacking, the Dave Asprey, Timothy Ferriss type stuff. So maybe this is it. Create a business, sell it, feel a little more comfortable, less stress, and your numbers go down. So don't need the drugs. We just need to be successful.
The natural entrepreneur's drug.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it keeps you coming back and wanting more. That's the truth.
How does doing it once position you for doing it again?
Can't say it's going to be any easier because you never can tell. But I can tell you I will miss a lot of the mistakes that I made the first time. Everybody makes mistakes. And if you didn't have them, you wouldn't learn from them. But yeah, I definitely, I started FOODNOW at 25. So it was a lot of learning. So that's what I would say would happen this time or the next time. Going to be a little more streamlined. I think a little quicker ramp period. I'll get to where I need to be. I know the things that really move the needle for us, and I can implement those from the beginning rather than down the road. Anything we do next, we'll start with a little bit of capital. So that's a lot easier than what I started FOODNOW with.
Which is hunger.
Yeah, I was hungry and I had a little under 10 grand and I printed out my idea on a piece of paper and that was it.
We didn't even mention that. So it's FOODNOW and you sold to BiteSquad. We'll go back and talk about the origins of FOODNOW, but since we're there, let's talk about the process for the sale. How did that come about?
It was actually pretty interesting. FOODNOW was going really well. Wasn't marketing the business for sale. I wasn't working with a broker. Didn't put it out there to anybody. We had just expanded down to Southwest Florida about 6 months prior, Fort Myers, Bonita Springs, Cape Coral area. So we were really focusing on that. Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, those were both just booming. We were still up 100% year over year going into year 6. So I got this email from our biggest thorn in the side competitors over the last 5 years, a company called Doorstep Delivery. It wasn't the typical email I had received from those guys in the past. It was, hey, I'd want to get together with you and let you know new development, just a friendly meeting. So I said, oh, sure, I'm always open. I reached out to all of my competitors here regionally, not just in Pinellas. I love to sit down with people in the same industry, learn about what they're doing, let them know I'm not a bad guy. I don't have any ill will against you as a person or anything, just a business. So I sat down with those guys. They told me what they were doing, that they had actually just closed. They were in 18 locations throughout the Southeast, so 18 markets. Pretty big company, doing tens of millions of dollars in revenue. When they got acquired by BiteSquad had said, is there anybody else you would want to have link up with us and join in this roll up? And they said right away, we need to get FOODNOW because if not, they're going to continue to be a thorn in our side. St. Pete is a different market and they really like the local guys. I think it was, if not the next day, it was 2 days later, I flew up to Minneapolis and met with the founder of BiteSquad, and we sat about 10 hours in the conference room. And really, I wanted to learn everything about what they were doing because I needed to be sold on that. And I loved it. I think that they are doing everything the right way in an industry that's kind of commoditizing itself. And that's pretty much how it happened. It came out of the blue and I took the meeting and I said, okay. And right when we left the office, pretty much, we were quiet for about a half hour just thinking. Went back to our hotel. You couldn't really talk outside because it was negative 25 degrees in Minneapolis when we were up there. And Florida native does not like that. So we got in there and kind of looked at each other and said, we're got to do this. Too good of an offer, too good of a company, too good of an opportunity. So that's how it all came about.
And you're actually now with BiteSquad. You stayed on to continue to run local operations.
Yeah, so I'm helping with restaurant partnerships and just making sure everything's stable as we push forward and continue to dominate in this market regionally as well as nationally, as we're expanding into should be about 30 states by the end of the year.
Did BiteSquad acquire any other West Florida delivery companies other than yours and Doorstep?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of acquisitions going on. I can't comment on the West Florida companies yet. We haven't transitioned all the markets, but Gainesville, we rolled 3 companies into one up there, which is a really cool market, being that it's such a small market and filled with college kids, but it absolutely pumps out some cool business. People love delivery up there. You know, we did Tallahassee as well, Jacksonville, Orlando. You get the Space Coast, and then South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm.
In places like Gainesville, assuming there's 3 existing companies and BiteSquad buys them and rolls them into one, does that invite new people to start up and come in as the number 2 firm?
When I was able to bootstrap and start FOODNOW, I attribute a lot of it to timing. We didn't have Ubers. We didn't have Amazons. You know, we didn't have Grubhubs, Googles, BiteSquads, any of these guys. It is a very difficult time to kind of bootstrap RDS, a restaurant delivery service today, because there is so much attention to it now. I still think it's at a very low level of market penetration, even though it is all the buzz lately. Definitely not fully mainstreamed at this point. So a lot of room to grow. So coming in and starting would be a very daunting and difficult process, especially the way technology's gone. That's what these big companies are able to provide, is the tablet ordering or the integrated ordering systems with the restaurants. It's getting to scale. So you don't really make money in this industry until you can get to scale. And then that's also a challenge in itself. Scaling without the right technology is nearly impossible.
All right. So let's go back and talk about how it started, right? And the basics are you saw a need and you started the business. So when you made that decision to start it, what was the first thing you did at that point?
So yeah, it was about mid-2011. I moved back. I was up in Manhattan crashing on an air mattress in my buddy's studio. He was in a band and having a good time. And then I moved back to St. Pete, get back close to family. I got a job working at a desk, and left and right, new restaurant. We were in this renaissance of restaurant that hasn't slowed down, only accelerated up to this point. But nobody would deliver. You know, you had your standard pizza chains, and then everybody likes to say, or Chinese, but really you didn't even have that. So really that's how it started. And I would be at my desk, you know, working on my job. Anytime you got up from the desk, you had to clock out. It was basically analytics rating and things like that for Google and Bing. I couldn't leave and go. Otherwise that was counted against my time. And you know, what you thought would be good, easy money, it turns out to drag. So in the meantime, I'm working on a business plan, sketching out logos, kind of wondering how this would work. And there weren't the big guys out there. It wasn't as public. So, you know, I reached out to a few companies, one of them being Doorstep Delivery, who was doing franchise stuff, just requested all the information I could. Send me everything you have. I'm potentially going to do this. I basically got all that stuff together, looked at it all, saw what they wanted up front, royalty wise, and my 10 grand wouldn't cover even what they needed to open the franchise. So I realized I had to go at it alone. And lucky for me, there was nobody in Pinellas County, and it hadn't really happened. But at the same time, educating restaurants on something that was unheard of was a difficult process. So I finally, you know, decided I'm going to do this and started to go pitch some restaurants on it. And I think I had about 100 no's before I got a single yes. My original business plan was downtown St. Pete up to like 22nd Avenue. You know, it was simply a downtown delivery service. I worked at the Greenhouse, which was basically it's put on by the chamber, and they helped me along the whole way. You know, I had professors from USF in there donating their time, building this business plan out with me. The economic data I was able to get from the city of drive times from this pinned location to here, how many people drive on the different streets. It was amazing what was available for free if you just looked for it. It was a lot of research before I actually launched, and then I just grassrooted it. You know, it was trying to partner with restaurants. I had the prepaid cell phone, the Wi-Fi hotspot, taking calls in my car, put it in the orders and delivering them.
That's kind of romantic to entrepreneurs. You know, you started out real old school style.
The thing I liked is, and I still find attractive, are companies that don't take a ton of capital to get into. You know, if I wanted to open a cafe or anything else, it's like oh, well, you're not even going to get the lease if you can't prove you have this much money or inventory, equipment, everything else. And, so I kind of went in the middle, and it was, hey, I don't need to buy any inventory. I don't need to have any employees. And I just make money based on how much I can push this.
It makes sense that restaurants wouldn't do delivery because, staffing issues and time and profitability. And since somebody else is doing it, they assume people are just going to have to stand up and go walk into a place anyway.
Right.
Were they afraid they were cannibalizing their own business? Or
that used to be, that is a thought that people have. Oh, you're going to take away my to-goes. My first round of going out there was, oh, well, you're just a 25-year-old kid. How long have you been open? Never? Oh, how many orders have you done? None? Getting restaurants to actually take that step of, I'm going to be the first one on here. It was come back when you get some restaurants, well, if nobody gives that kid a shot, it's tough. So you have to be persistent. That's one of the biggest things in business is if you know it's not going to work, maybe you shouldn't waste your time. But if you have that feeling and that burning desire that I want to give this the best shot I can, because at 20 or 30, I could have said no and gone back to my desk job and made money. But I just knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And at the same time, I really wanted to provide a service. Even today, when I'm thinking about what to do next, it's what is missing, or what can make life easier. St. Pete had all this cool stuff going on, as it still does today. But what wasn't there? There was something that had never been here. And we had these great restaurants, great people, great tourists, put them together without them having to actually go to the restaurant and boost sales for the restaurant at the same time. So at the end of it, I can look back and say that I helped a lot of people, a lot of different people who needed delivery. It was a necessity of their life. Also, a lot of people who simply were hungover or didn't want to get off the couch, lazy, families with kids, and then restaurants, one that didn't open on Beach Drive or Central Avenue, that didn't have the walk-in traffic. We helped them grow their sales, grow their exposure in the community. So
you essentially built an industry. It's an industry that just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And now it is.
It's been a crazy, I've attended the conference out in Vegas every year and just seen it grow and grow and grow. And it's only recently that we got this big money coming in. It was a bunch of guys like me who have even done it longer than I did. And I don't know how. They were guys doing this stuff before the internet, before smartphones. I could not fathom how to make that work, because really technology is what you need. They were more bootstrapping than I was, but now the industry's, if you're not doing delivery, you're missing out, or you're living in the past,
It's like not having a website. So where do you think we are? You didn't mention that there's still a lot of headspace or a lot of room to grow. You think we're kind of just sort of at the end of the early adopters phase and moving into the more mainstream phase? Or do you think we're cracked into mainstream?
I think we're right getting into that mainstream. It's tough because, I just saw something about, I think it was an article that outside of big cities, even in USA, internet is not a great thing. Super slow speeds, super expensive, no service. It's crazy to think that something we take for granted is at our fingertips and soon to be booming throughout the city without even need for a password or anything, and in other parts, they don't have anything.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and I remember one time our internet went out because the guy who ran it microwaved his burrito too long and flipped the circuit breaker in his house, and the whole city's internet went out for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, hopefully it was a good burrito. You say, okay, we've got this adoption. Yeah, we do have it in places like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA, Austin, St. Pete. Of course, these more major markets, but there are thousands and thousands of these middle America. I mean, even the Gainesvilles of the world.
College towns make sense. I mean, that's the traditional, that's how things grow, right? They start in the thought centers and trickle out. And there may be some additional challenges to scaling to more rural areas, right? It's the same way there was with internet. There's some, hopefully, resourceful entrepreneur will come in and solve that problem.
Yeah, even in comparison to the United States versus the rest of the world, we have a very low adoption rate to delivery. Even much poorer countries. You go to Asia, to South America, Central America. When I was down in Central America, you could get anything pretty much delivered. I mean, we didn't have street addresses in Costa Rica. They would bring you whatever you want, a little guy on a moped, Here, I think we're just so adopted to everybody having at least one car, and families, having multiple vehicles, that I even fell into this of we live so close to a Publix. And it's like, dang, when I lived in Manhattan, I walked everywhere. And now I'm driving a block and a half
And of course, we have drive-throughs
to go to
right?
Publix, and drive-throughs and everything else. So I think delivery is now, especially with all these national headlines, really going to make a big push in this market, especially for all the different uses, from individual orders up to caterings and things like that. So
at one point, as you were growing, did you reach a point where I know you brought in your cousin to help. How, as far as you scaled the business, were there times when you bumped up against things you weren't sure about in doing that how did you get help? Were you reading? Were you listening to podcasts? Did you have mentors? How did that sort of business evolution happen for you? And what was your support network?
Yeah, so I have used mentors in the past. I look up to people, whether I know them or not. There's so much out there today on the internet, as well as in the local community. The greenhouse is actually where we met. I've done a few things with the chamber, Focus St. Pete, Entrepreneurial Academy. That is where I built my business plan in the first place. So I kept going back there, kept reaching out when I had a problem. There were people that would help you for free. And the things I've learned is that it's not my industry, but people have gone through these same challenges before. So probably in my fourth year, I hired a business coach because we were getting so big that there was a lot of revenue. And it's just like, oh man, like don't lose control here of what's going on. It's even when I went to the conference, people would say, man, how have you not expanded into new markets? You're doing all these numbers, this and that. I said, I'm so passionate about St. Pete and Pinellas County and Tampa Bay region in general. I don't want to grow too fast because I've seen it happen. Service falls off and then you lose that good customer. We were building the people who ordered 3 to 5 times a week, and they were consistent and they liked our consistency. So I kind of did it based on that. And then,
customer service is one of the hardest things to scale.
It really is. Yeah. Especially in the age of technology. Now we're seeing these tech companies come in and open hospitality businesses. It really is hard because there's that element of food that's not the same as picking up people on a street corner, dropping them off to another place, I
think so that nice segue into Uber.
Yeah. So that's Uber, the beast that they are, and a heck of a company. I admired them for a long time.
I think we talked about this once before, and you said they increased your business because they helped break through that awareness.
It first happened back in like 2013, maybe when Doorstep Delivery decided to open in Pinellas County. They did this big push, bunch of money, direct mailed so many homes. I was getting hundreds of picture messages of, who are these guys? This is your territory. And, it's crazy to have a business with no competitors. It's so hard. You can't open a coffee shop or a pizza place or anything and go, dang, nobody else is making coffee in this town. So I had 3 years of a monopoly, which is super hard to happen these days in anything. So they came in and direct mailed everybody, and they launched with maybe 20 restaurants on board. And at that point, we were up to 100, 150. What happened is these people get it and they just type Doorstep Delivery into Google. So my AdWords kind of popped up before that and let them know 150 restaurants and a cheaper delivery fee. So we saw a nice bump when they opened into the market. It was crazy without doing any marketing. Then we went a couple years until Uber came out. It was one of the probably 720 newspaper or online articles mentioning Uber Eats, this great brand new delivery service that was launching. Our traffic was just going up, and it was just organic. Then when they actually launched into the marketplace, they launched coincidentally the same month as our 5-year anniversary. So they come into a market kind of like the Amazon effect, and they say $15 in free food to everybody plus free deliveries for an extended period of time. So we timed it at the same point to where it's going to be free deliveries for the whole month. And then we sent out a bunch of gift certificates, just major customer appreciation stuff. What we found is that not only did our page rank and views go up, web traffic, but our sales went up. But at the same time, we took our top 20% of our customers, and we noticed that those top 20% of our customers didn't fall off even 3% from what they were ordering. So that to me is just a testament of, once somebody likes your business, your service, especially if you have that customer service, they were beating us on price. They had some restaurants that we didn't have, but it shows that our top 20%, which is something that we really stressed in the last couple of years after I brought my cousin on, is that 80-20 principle of how can we take care of this 20% of people we're making up 82% of our business. That breaks down to every element of life, down to ants. It's pretty crazy the way that works, but it is definitely true. And even through business coaching and consulting, it was one of the big visual things I learned was customers. We ranked them as A, B, C's, D's. You spend so much more time on these C's and D's trying to make them happy and do this and do that and jumping through hoops, and they're not even great customers. I mean, all customers to me are great customers if they want to spend money at my business and support us. But then you have these customers that are just excellent. We had a couple people in this city that were spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year in orders, and of course those are corporate companies, but even as individuals, we had people over the 5-year period. It was pretty insane nearing the $100,000 mark in orders, but that just shows that this region is nice, it's hot, and it's good for business.
Well, then I think, in the agency space where I am, there's a big movement. They say you should fire 10% of your clients every year. And of course, I think Jack Welch made that famous on the employee side of thing with GE, where he reviewed in the bottom 10% of employees were let go every year. There's plenty of mind power and force behind letting go of the bad customers. And it's something that, especially new people who cling to that, people who are new to the business, they see every opportunity. It's just, I can't let it go. I can't let it go because, even if it's making me a penny and killing me, it's so counter to where I feel in the business and my growth, but it's something you'll eventually do. And the sooner you do it, I think the better off you are.
Right. There's some people that, and especially in the hospitality industry, any restaurant owners can attest to this, is some people you simply cannot make happy. You can bend over backwards, break your back, and literally be losing money every time they walk in. It's never going to work. You're taking away that time from some of your really good customers that you should be putting a little more focus towards.
Sure. The biggest expenses that goes into that customer retention effort is sorting the customers into why they're leaving. At least it seems like you have the benefit of knowing when they're not happy, because sometimes customers stop buying. You have that little gap and, hey, you haven't purchased in a while, but you don't know if it's because they died or because they moved or because they had a bad experience with the food or somebody else gave them a deal. And then you have to almost develop separate programs to counter each of those reasons. So if it's people that are leaving for deals, to get them back, you got to give them deals. And if people that are leaving because another competitor lured them away, you've got to lure them back. And that's a separate effort, right? When you have this core message that you've built, really taking those resources and not trying to lure back those people or give discounts to those people, because that's a never-ending hole that you have to dump discounts into. Just take those resources and stick to your core message and try to win new business the other direction is again, it's a counterintuitive thing, but it's often the right business decision.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up. One of the learning experiences, we had partnered with an email automation company. I mean, we could build chains that were 20 scenarios long of if they ordered this particular item, send them this email. And then if they didn't order again in the next 5 days, send them this one. It was super cool and super powerful for us. So we're thinking of all these things. We had late nights of brainstorming, hundreds of, if they haven't ordered in 30 days, we'll give them this. If they haven't ordered in 60 days, give them this. And one of the things was, if they order 3 times in 5 days, let's give them this. If they order 15 times in a month, let's get them this. And then we were looking at it, and of course we want to reward those customers, but at the same time we're going, wait, we're giving away our profit to people who love our service. They're ordering 15 times in a month. We just need to keep service good and keep providing a consistent experience for them, not necessarily give away the house, Where I also feel that I'm fortunate is data allocation. I was able to collect insane amounts of data on our customers, everything from their demographics, where they live, where they order from, what types of food, how frequent. Most customers put in their birthday because they wanted the free coupon on their birthday. So I had ages, it made marketing for us so much better. We also surveyed our customers constantly. We wanted that feedback. What do you like? What do you not like? That for us was huge because we were able to build from that data, whereas it's kind of part of a pitch I used to use was, hey, when somebody comes into your restaurant, do you ask them where they live, what their phone number is, what their birthday is, how frequently do they like to eat your kind of food, all these things. And every restaurateur said, no, but I wish I could. Oh, well, that's what I have. And I can partner with you and share that with you.
So how does that partnership work?
So we didn't share our customer data with restaurants, but we did partner with restaurants who wanted to do a marketing campaign. One of the unique things FOODNOW did that none of the other companies, especially the bigger ones, aren't doing is we would go in, and one of my ideas of trying to help, I wanted to help small business just like mine. You've got the big guys, the big corporate chains that get all these price breaks because they're big and they order so much. So I networked with a printing firm and said, hey, I know we're just one little company, but if I were able to send you menus and postcards and direct mailers and this kind of stuff from, let's say, 50 or 100 or 200 restaurants consistently every year, what kind of price level could you put me at? So what we did is then we went around to these restaurant partners of ours and said, hey, anytime you need a to-go menu, anytime you need anything done, a direct mail or a door hanger campaign, here's the pricing we're going to get. We'd get some other quotes, put it side by side, and then we would co-brand with them. So if you chose the co-branding option, if you didn't, you still got a lower price than going to your local printer or the big chain printer. But then I would say, hey, put We Deliver with FOODNOW on there, and I just cross this in half, and I take 50% of the cost. So people were saving hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year on their printing and things. So the partnership really was more than let us deliver your food. It was let us help you in the long run type deal. So there was a lot of benefit to that. And if they wanted to do a direct mail, I would create the list based on, let's say we had a sushi restaurant here that I had received a direct mail from them. It was an every door direct mail. And I went in and I talked to the owner and I said, hey, I noticed you're doing some marketing. That's awesome. But, I've got a few vacant houses in my neighborhood and I know that this hit them. And I know my neighbor absolutely hates sushi. You hit them. How much did you spend? Oh, $1,000. Well, what if I came in and I pulled 5 years of data of only people who have ever ordered Asian cuisine, and it's going to be in your surrounding neighborhoods, and then we will only mail the people who have interested in ordering Asian cuisine. And then I'll put We Deliver on it and I'll split it in half. And the 1,000 went down to like $200, for the next mailer. And we mailed a quarter of as many people maybe, but the results were 5 times as great, And so it was being able to work with restaurant owners and people in the community to not just grow my business, but help grow theirs. And I think that's, somewhere where you and I connect as well is I appreciate consultants so much, the mentorship, the consulting. There's so much value and power in that, where a lot of people say, oh, they're out to get your money, or, I already know what I'm doing. And it's like, usually if you can't open yourself up to learning and moving forward and continuing to educate, then you're not going to keep growing. So it really brought a lot of joy to help.
It seems like, and it feels like that might have just been scratching the surface of those partnerships, right? It seems like you could have, with that data, there's other people that data would benefit, and maybe the next Gen 2 of this is the people be building out your networks so that you're driving traffic to the restaurants through your brand. But then co-marketing, I think what you said is a great idea, to attach your brand to their brand and get that exposure, save them the money. It's just a clear example of win-win. So that could even get deeper, right? Because that's a struggle that a lot of small restaurants have, is quality marketing. And obviously there's everybody from the big agencies down to the Craigslist folks, and that's another built-in advantage, is that the people that can have their own marketing departments, it's hard to compete with the people who don't have the acumen and then have to hire the and Craigslist people can be awesome, but they're not a big experienced staff. Right. So you can sort of bring some of that power to them with the power of the group being distributed out.
Yeah, definitely. And we kind of weed them out. We had specific partners we worked with. It's such a daunting search when you need a menu designed or something. And it's like, oh gosh, there are so many, and usually restaurants are on a very tight budget. Obviously, there's ones that are on the opposite end of that. But where do you look? And so many stories of people getting burned. And can't tell you how many restaurants I would ask, okay, well, just send me over your logo file, and we would create just little iframe drop-ins for websites that we could drop right into restaurants' pages and have create online ordering for takeout and delivery onto their homepage. And then we did that for free. But the amount of restaurants who didn't have access to their website because they hired somebody who did it and they can't get a hold of them, didn't have access to logo files. It was, oh, will you try to take a picture of it off of the menu? Well, that doesn't work for print. I need an actual high-res photo.
Phone shoot. Take his phone and take a picture of his menu.
Exactly. So, it was definitely rewarding to help in that way. So
maybe we should discover your next business. It's the delivery marketing partnership.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, there's well, it makes sense on paper to have a on-staff graphic person that can serve all the restaurants. You think at its scale that might make sense, really. It's also it's a mucky thing to get into, all that subjectivity and non-technical understanding. And at the end of the day, a lot of times with agencies, as much of the value as they provide is that hand-holding or whatever to get people comfortable with what they're doing. And
right.
yeah, again, it's, St. Pete's is thriving, but it's not so big that a nice exit like you had is not a big win for us. And it just feels good to have that happening in St. Pete. I have to say, huge fan of the greenhouse, Sean Kennedy and Carly. And it's just a really good resource. And the people there couldn't be more genuine, couldn't be more truly interested in lifting up the community. And that feeds back into the chamber with Chris Steinecker and that crew there. So it's good to have a success story like yours come out of that. They put the effort in to make that happen.
And I'm not the only one. There's several that I've known from my class and other classes that I see their shops. You got storefronts on Central.
Strands of Sunshine.
Yeah, Strands of Sunshine. You got quite a few people that are actually out there. And I was a unique case because I think it was like a year and a half into my business or almost 2 years in. It just gets back to whatever I could do to learn. A little backstory. I wasn't always the best student when it came to formal education. So all through high school, elementary, middle school, that kind of thing. And then even in college, I wasn't the 4.0 GPA by any means or super consistent with, let's say, even going to class. But after that, I just became so enamored with learning. I still have the same insomnia of sitting up and just going through things, whether they're magazines, I'm Inc. and Fortune and Business Insider and all these things.
Let's go there then. So let's talk about, give the folks who are listening who are starting, what are some books or what are some resources, podcasts, who's on the top of your list to recommend to people?
One of the things I wake up with is the founder of Success Magazine, Darren Hardy. He has a daily email that will come to you. And it's like a minute, 2 minutes. And it's just kind of him sitting there telling you kind of something motivational, some
video or audio?
Yeah, it's video. Usually, sometimes it's audio. You've got guys like Gary Vee. He's a little more on the hard side, but he could be kind of abrasive. But he's an honest guy, and he calls out the BS. That's what he does.
I'm a big fan of his, and he's doing what he's doing to build his brand, and that's sort of one part of his personality. But there have been times when I've heard him get in his zone and riffing that some really brilliant stuff's come out of his head. And
one of the things he stresses all the time is he hears, "Oh, I'm already 30. I've got a job. I've got a kid. It's over for me. I'm going to be working at my desk job forever." He's like, look at these people who have, one of the recent ones was Sam Walton. The guy was like 45 years old when he started Walmart. There's all these cases of just because you have the Evan Spiegels and the Facebooks of the world and whatnot that are 18-year-old super geniuses making these billion-dollar companies, that's what technology has produced now. But it doesn't mean, one of the examples was, well, what do you do at night after your job? He's like, well, I have a couple beers and I watch Netflix for a few hours and this and that. He says, take that out over a 6-month span. You've got hundreds of hours to work on your business plan and work on this, and actually do something. It's just when you look back and say, wow, I've wasted all this time. So, guys like that, Timothy Ferriss, is another one I've always, ever since the 4-Hour Work Week, I've read that several times and just been trying to get a 4-hour work week. I still haven't accomplished it, but I'm still young. So maybe, and those guys, and Dave Asprey, he's the Bulletproof Coffee guy. I followed them for health. I'm trying to, one of the things after selling the business is refocusing on my health. Owning a delivery service wasn't always the easiest thing.
How's that going?
It's going pretty good. Yeah. Back into, taking a vitamin regimen. And
do you feel the difference?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. More energy. Just trying to be totally level, basically as naturally regulated as possible. And then just be able to feel everything and feel what you eat and that kind of thing is different from where I was at for a while. Getting back into it is tough, but anything you do for pretty much 30 to 45 days, you can get right back into a rhythm. And that's with pretty much anything.
So you're working on behavior change as much as...
Yeah. Physical, mental, behavior. And that goes through whether it's business, personal, at home with my family. If you're not cognizant of what you're doing in the moment, then
how big was the mental toll that you went through? Obviously the physical one, that's just time and stress. How did your brain cope with that journey?
It's really tough, and I have so much compassion for all business owners. I know it's everywhere from small business to big business, but I feel like small even more because I know more small business owners and I'm friends with them on Facebook and whatnot. And I see this of what kind of toll it could take when somebody goes on Yelp and just rips your restaurant apart, and I'm going in there and I got to call my buddy up because, hey, I saw what happened on Facebook and there was this back and forth, and just keep your head up, man. You're kicking butt in there. You're doing a great job. And it's somebody who comes in and, something wasn't right, but it's a husband and wife that are literally working 90 hours a week. They're putting time away from spending with their children and their families and doing really what they want to do because they're there serving people every day, and that happened to me is I was so, as I said, built on customer service that I got not good at just brushing it off. Oh, this person had a bad experience. Well, I want to personally reach out to them. And then most people, when they hear from, the founder, hey, I'm the founder and I wanted to make sure your experience was good, 100% refund on your order, and I'll personally deliver you another order. They're, wow, it's above and beyond. No need for the refund, great. But other people, F you, this, and you just go, man, why, what? But that's just people,
That's about them. That's not about you.
Exactly. And that's kind of, you have to get to that understanding. And I've gotten a lot better at that, especially as you talk about getting to scale. Now we're more into doing the tens of thousands of orders nationally, at least on a daily basis. So you can't be super focused on all that, but you definitely need to get that data and always improve on it. But it's definitely an emotional toll.
I mean, I think that's partly where we are as a society, right? The internet's been around for a while, but the rise of these review sites and things like that is literally in the last, 3 to 5 years. And so, most of our societal interaction, an insult was a big deal, right? Because before the internet, for someone to take the time to say something in a public forum about you was a huge deal. And so I think the people who experience that now, it's still a huge deal to them, right? The one bad Yelp review. I think that's changing though. I think 10 years from now, it won't affect us as much because we'll realize that the barrier to an insult is non-existent anymore, right? So people just do it and it's about them. And, the other thing is before the prevalence of free information flow, there was just less information. So again, an insult made a big deal, but now you're going to get 100 positives to your one negative, which again will help frame it. And I see that as being a growth pain for us as a
kind of desensitized to that. The internet's along with that come what they call the internet trolls, who just roam around. And I think the hardest part for business owners is, and what I would always ask is, hey, thanks for your feedback. Obviously, the 1-star review kind of sucks, but I really wish you would have reached out to us because we would have loved to make that better for you. And it's really how a business reacts to somebody not having a great experience should be what they're voted on, that type of a thing. And the review sites, I know restaurants have a really hard time with them because you kind of get into this thing of, okay, when I go to a great restaurant, I go to the Mill or whatever it is downtown, I know that I'm going to drop a few bucks. I've never had anything but great experiences. So this is on them, but you expect whether you're going to any restaurant, food to be good, the service to be good. So I'm not inclined to go home. I am more now because I know the other side of it. So I like to give reviews to people, positive. I don't give negative reviews, but people aren't inclined as much to go, hey, everything was as expected, 5 stars, But as soon as somebody brought somebody's food out 5 minutes before the rest of the table, they're absolutely furious because, they are a Michelin rated food critic and we need to be snapping at everything they need.
It's a different reality. And I'll echo the shout out to the Mill. Jason Griffin and Chef Ted are good. Jason especially is tearing it up now. He's
expansion,
opening everything.
I know, yeah.
Different businesses. He's one of the kind of under the radar true entrepreneurs in the city, and I like watching him operate. Well, so one piece of advice I give when it comes to handling negative reviews online, often the question is, should I answer or shouldn't I answer? And I always think you should answer, especially if it's genuine, right? If it's just somebody that's clearly never used your service or whatever, maybe not. But realize that the person you're really responding to or the people you're really responding to are your next 100 customers, right? So you want to show that you want to make that person's experience right. I tend to say, don't talk about anything. Don't justify, don't tell them why they didn't understand. Don't do anything that gives them a reason to continue the conversation as an argument or as a discussion even. Just say, sorry, I didn't feel that way, or you felt that way, what can we do to make it right? But ideally, you're doing that for the next 100 people that look at that review and see how you handled it.
Right. And a lot of those times, you look at these reviews and or I see somebody posted on Facebook, and actually had recently happened is my buddy Pete down at the Galley who just opened in St. Pete. He's another St. Pete native. And him and Ian are busting their tails over there, doing their own first restaurant they've owned themselves. They've been all over the place and busting it for other people, and now they're doing it for themselves, and they're doing a great job. And they recently got a poor review from one of the publications, so an actual paper. And I found it really cool that Pete posted that on his Facebook, and he said, hey, we're on the Galley's Facebook. We're always trying to strive for excellence and improve everything. All feedback is warranted. And I mean, this thing blew up. There has to be 500 comments on it. And he said that the amount of people that came in the following days, after getting a 2 out of 5 or whatever the heck the rating scale is, were insane of the amount of support that he got. And it's the influence of one person can have over a restaurant. But at the same time, I think people are making their own decisions now. So when they do see this bad review on Facebook or on Yelp or even a professional writer, you could see through it. You see this 1 star and it's all caps and exclamations and misspellings and, and this didn't come, there wasn't enough ranch dressing on my salad and this and that. It's like, okay, you discredit that. The problem is when you're just briefly browsing, that overall star rating is what people really look at.
We got a 1-star rating this weekend on the Big C site because a guy in Texas was mad about a political statement that one of our employees made on his private Facebook page. And so he's like, well, I don't like that. So what can I do to get back at him? I'm going to go to his place of work and put a 1-star review up. So yeah, it's out there.
Yeah.
So what's next? You going straight angel investor now? You're going to little piece of everything in the town?
That definitely has always interested me. I think that that's an amazing, such a cool industry. I've met some cool people that are investors, and it's amazing the people you meet that you had no clue that are investors in other things, and it's even meeting and spending some time speaking with you, I just want to be connected with and in the talks with the right people that are making things happen, because there's, as we continue to grow St. Pete, the talent just keeps getting better and better, whether it's local grown or come in from other spots all over the world. And I think we're just a hub for some great things that are happening, not only that have already happened or in the process of happening, but haven't even started yet, So I would definitely like to invest and kind of diversify and see if I can't add anything to those projects, because my real passion, what I love, which is luckily, if you love and you're good at something, it's in the building, the creation, it was the management, being 25, 26, and now 30. The management stuff was difficult because when you start your own business, you don't have an HR handbook. I try to make one, but it's like just pulling pieces from everybody else's online. And I don't have somebody, when you're the owner, it's like, okay, who can I ask? And luckily I had my coach, but it was like, man, the management part was so difficult. And especially when you've got a small group, we grew to 12 employees in-house and about 100 drivers out there, but you become close to people. And sometimes doing what's right for the business isn't always what's right on an emotional level. So I was very fortunate with the team that we had. Great people really contributed to the overall success of the company and provided great service for the community. So I'd love to be involved with the creation of things. I love that. Obviously, I think real estate is something that's going to keep going here in St. Pete. The other day, I was out looking at some spots on Central Avenue, and then, when I see what the price per square foot is, I'm like, oh my gosh. So recently was making some moves on a spot over in South Tampa right now, a commercial spot, and I'm looking in St. Pete and Tampa at the same time. And it's amazing to me that the price on Central Avenue in St. Pete is more than double of the price in South Tampa, right in the heat of Soho area, So it's kind of crazy that shift has happened. Everybody who's from St. Pete, I went away to college and living in all parts of the country and world. It was, oh, you're from St. Pete. Oh, you mean Tampa? No, man, I'm from St. Pete. It's like, are you from New York? Oh, are you from Jersey? No, we're from St. Pete.
We got a little bit shafted in that it was called Tampa Bay, right? If it was called St. Petersburg Bay,
yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we can make a push,
St. Pete Bay.
Yeah, there you go. Joe for mayor.
I wouldn't survive the background checks, unfortunately.
Oh, man.
Just kidding.
That's all right. I couldn't be a member of your cabinet either. So, but yeah, St. Pete Bay. So some news on what's going in the Bay.
Yes, the swap spots here. Nice. I appreciate that. So let's talk about the pier, Tanner.
Oh man, sorry about that.
No, that's perfect.
Interviewer becomes interviewee.
Yes, yeah. I'm just gonna put my feet up. So yeah, we got this. You grew up here, so you've lived through all stages of the pier, or most of them, I guess.
Yeah, my family. We've been here for 100 years, so they had the old pier.
So you've been assaulted by many generations of pelicans on the pier chasing you down.
Yes, definitely. It's crazy when people come visit and they tell me, "Oh man, you grew up in such a beautiful place." Yes, it's always been beautiful, but it didn't have this thriving, we're downtown on Beach Drive and these condos, this and that. And it's like, yeah, that's, 2005. So we're looking about 12 years of having that. We didn't have these restaurants. We didn't have the mills and these types of places, it's.
What are you hoping for that we get out of this new pier? What position is it going to hold for the city? We talked a little bit earlier about how it seems like the new design doesn't have that stand in front of it, take a picture sort of structure. Really went heavy on the usability side of it, which I don't think anybody's against for sure. You want it to be usable.
Yeah, as long as it's used in the right manner. I was a fan of the lens, or I was a fan of let's build something big and iconic. And the other side was, it needs to be more useful. It can't just be a walkway. If you've traveled, you go to these places, I always enjoy hitting the High Line in New York and walking on that. There's not much to do besides walk on it. I've never been to the Bean in Chicago when there weren't thousands of people standing around it, holding their hands up against it, taking a picture. You got St. Louis, the Arch. It's not a McDonald's in the top of it, but you got these things that are just iconic. They don't really need to be. I think you and I might be in that same boat of, it's there for kind of a signature piece of the city, a landmark, not necessarily a commercial opportunity to rent out space. I don't know.
I don't think we can take our brander's hat off, right? You just see the brand value for the city. And I don't think that discounts the usability desire. It just means for a push to be able to do both. I think ultimately, seeing a show out there and looking back over the city, there's your Red Rocks and that sort of thing too. So there'll be plenty of that. I don't know. I'm excited that there's going to be something there. I think it's good for the city. I think it's good to get it done. I think that we're deep in our, renaissance and growth, and the longer that it sits not being done, that it's just wasted time, really.
I kind of turned a shoulder to the whole pier project when the lens got shot down years ago. And I just said, oh man, if it can do a vote to approve something and then it gets taken away, I'm a firm believer, and there's multiple sides to everything, so I'm not screw this, that, and the other, but it was like, man, I'm just going to focus on things I can control right now, then not the pier. Yeah. And it seems like all of a sudden it snuck up on me and groundbreaking is tomorrow. So it's like, oh man, okay. So you're talking about this new pier, and I remember seeing the models and then the one that ended up winning. Do you remember what architect it was? I don't remember that either, but I'm not even sure what it's going to be in there. Is it the amphitheater type thing?
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's lots of green space, which is nice.
So more like a park,
yes.
And very cool. Well, that's, one of the things I love about St. Pete, and I think that gets us such notoriety throughout the world, is what Mr. Straub did many moons ago and dedicated all that land to never be built on. It's incredible to have those waterfront parks. And so that was huge vision from the founders of this place, and I think in my eyes, we're kind of going through that again right now. We had those guys, the Perry Snells and the Straubs, the people who really developed this place many years ago. And now you've got the other big name developers and whatnot who are doing really cool things, redeveloping projects, building new projects, buying whole blocks and turning them into new things. It's just super cool to see where we're at now. And not only locals, but now you've got people from Manhattan, the 6th largest landowner in New York City, has bought a block in St. Pete,
So speaking of people, one thing I like to do is, you've been here forever, and what's an entity or a person or a business that you think is doing good stuff that think would benefit from some additional eyeballs on them? What kind of give them a shout out? Is there someone that comes to mind that you think?
One of the companies that we've talked about in the past that just big props to and super happy and proud of is the Penny Hoarder. And that's one that they're kind of like even more so hidden than FOODNOW, because FOODNOW provided a service in the community, but they are a web-based business. So you would never know, they started ordering from us very beginning when he was bootstrapping. Man, and then I saw some article, I think on Business Insider, that they were doing $20+ million. Now they're doubled, and that was 1 year. gone from 20 to 40 million. I don't personally know the team over there too well, but I haven't heard anything but positive things to be said about the workplace, the environment, and the way the company's run. And I know that they definitely took care of their employees with food. So that's always good in my book.
Yeah, we had Kyle in for an interview last week or week ago, and super sharp. And we actually filmed a video over there, which is on the St. Pete EDC's website. And, Aaron and Kim over there were superstars. And, it's a great open plan. I purchased a book for Kyle, and so where's his office? Can I go, throw it in his office? Okay, his desk is right there. Yeah. And he just basically walked down all the aisle of desks, and it was just his desk sitting there. And he's just right with everybody else, and real, flat organization to the point where even the founder, who's making that kind of revenue is just hanging out with everybody else. And so.
Yeah, the first time I saw that really was, I got a tour when C1 Bank opened down here, and that's no longer C1 Bank, but Bank of the Ozarks. But that was pretty cool when I went out and, was walking through there, and they're like, oh, this is Trevor, our CEO. And he was just sitting at the same desk, same computer as a customer service rep that was sitting there, and I thought that was so cool, of not the big corner pie in the sky, gold-plated office, it's just that real communal feel type.
Which is fitting for St. Pete. It fits the vibe that the city has.
There's so many people doing cool stuff. I love the people who are kind of visionaries in the development world. Is it Gianfilippo?
Gianfilippo, yeah, from Station House.
Yes, Station House, and what he did with the Pier Hotel. And he's got another project out in Reddington. Like, one of the things I like from living in New York, and I believe that's where he's from, is those brownstone projects. He's just one of those guys that it seems like, hey, I'm going to have this vision, and then they make it happen. And it's not necessarily the easy road or the cheap way to do things by any means, but that, and then, obviously what Bill Edwards has done for the city. I'm a huge supporter of the MLS Rowdies, MLS to St. Pete. Yeah, I mean, that'll be, compared to other sports, what MLS has done to the cities that they've entered, and a lot of cities that we kind of emulate with Portland, and these different areas it's huge. And a waterfront stadium would be a crown jewel of the league, and for him to say, I'm going to 100% self-fund this thing, and not dip into the taxpayers' money. And I like his passion, and he seems passionate about everything that he's a part of, and his work ethic is there. I've known some people that have worked with him, and everything, from the smallest details to the largest ones go across his desk.
He's an enigmatic guy. I was going to say him maybe twice, and I think we've never gone more than one sentence in exchange. Right.
I mean, I like kind of the initiative he's doing, and he's always stuff behind the scenes as well. The One St. Pete block and Baywalk Sundial, We need guys like him and Steve. And one of the guys I just learned about while I was doing some property hunting on Central is, have you heard of Tony Goldman? He's got the Goldman Trust now, I believe it is. He passed away, but he created these iconic areas. Two of them are Soho in New York. They bought up all the buildings and kind of redid them. Wynwood in Miami. So they've been buying up property in downtown St. Pete and kind of want to give that same effect to it, And I think the other guy from New York, the Red Apple Group, doing that, it's like these visionaries who are seeing St. Pete. Of course, there's people that are buying stuff in Tampa as well, but it's not the same momentum, and it's not at the same impact that's happening here. People are just wanting it, and hopefully it's sustainable. But I think once it's built, I came up with this quote, if you build it, they will come. It takes people like that to buy old buildings or old hotels or old movie theater plazas and completely demolish them and create something new, and a stadium would be nice as well. But everybody's doing their part. I don't know anybody else in particular that I would say.
That's great. Well, I can definitely feel the passion that you have for St. Pete. There's a great energy, and I look forward to seeing you growing more successful businesses and participating into the future. Obviously, anything I can do to help you, feel free to reach out as we do already, and appreciate you spending this time with us. I think there's still more to talk about, so maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. Anytime.
You made it to the end of another great episode. For show notes, head to stpete.co to the show notes page, which includes links to all the resources mentioned in the show, as well as quotes and key insights from the show and information about the guest and the host. Thanks again to our sponsor, Big C. Head to Big C, that's BIGSEA.co to check out their work. And if you like what you heard, make sure to share this episode on social media and leave a comment. See you next time.